Well, good Saturday afternoon. Carl Rominger here, show's weekend appointment, and the talk line number is 540-0580. That's 540-0580. You call in, we answer your legal questions. And those of you who don't know me, I'm an attorney here in the mid-state. I travel all over the place, York County, Lancaster County, Harrisburg, Dauphin County, all these fun places, Chambersburg. Probably, if you can hear this signal, I've been to a courthouse nearby you. And even if you're in Reading or up in Northumberland County, did a death penalty case up there in Northumberland County one time. So I've been around the mid-state, and I really like this area. But I did want to say I'm a little disappointed in Lancaster County. They convicted some poor nurse in a murder trial down there, which apparently was a shock to all the courthouse observers I've heard. I wasn't down there for the trial, but the scuttlebutt I've gotten is that the people in the know, the people that see criminal trials all the time, were shocked at the verdict. I'm sure the district attorney's office wasn't, since they're the ones that prosecuted. And of course, they'll say, "Oh, we weren't surprised." But the story and the background is that in the courthouse, there's a lot of mumbling and bubbling up, I'm told, about it, because everybody who is a seasoned veteran and can tell a guilty person from an innocent person by having sat through 20 trials, which most jurors don't have the advantage of. Now, I wasn't there. I didn't hear all the facts. However, I suspect that this was a more of an emotional decision than a logical decision. And I wish her the best of luck on her appeal, because based on what little I know, it doesn't sound like the right verdict. Dale, you're on WHP 580 540 0580. Dale.
Oh, sorry, Carl.
Gotcha.
Hi, I had a question. I had a situation pop up with my employer actually yesterday regarding my IRA.
Now, you posted on the weekend appointment site, right?
I did, yeah.
And of course, just so you know, I don't you think I'm not paying attention to that. I haven't responded to you on here, but I have it popped up right here, and I actually was going to address it, so I'm glad you called in. And Dale, just let me give a pitch for the website for everybody who doesn't know. If you go to weekendappointment.com, you can post your questions on there. I'll answer them. Some of the users might weigh in and ask you for some more information or give you some of their experience. Obviously, it's not a replacement for actually visiting or talking with a lawyer, but it's a great way to figure out if you need a lawyer and to get some practical advice.
Yeah.
Tell the listeners what happened to you.
Well, what happened was about the beginning of 2009, end of 2008, I entered into an IRA with my employer through a third-party IRA company, started the IRA, decided to contribute a percentage of my salary that was small enough where they would match dollar for dollar. If you can't tell, I'm a young guy, only 24. It's actually my first job out of college. But Anyway, I went to prepare my federal income tax information, knowing that, tax-deferred, contribution plans were deductible. And after consulting with the IRA company, I found out the IRAs, both of my accounts had zero balances. At that point, we confronted the accountant for our company.
And let me stop you for 1 second before you tell us anything else. Obviously, don't say the name of the company, number one.
Oh, certainly not, no.
Number two is, I saw in your post somewhere that somehow there might have been an audio recording, and I'll just caution you before you tell me if you actually audio recorded anything, that recording audio without a party's consent in Pennsylvania is a felony. So I just want to make sure you're aware of that. So keep all that in mind when you're talking.
Mm-hmm. What ended up happening was the accountant at the company admitted the entire thing. They basically told us that while things were being deducted from our paycheck, the amounts were not being invested into the IRA accounts, and they were being spent on general operating expenses of the business. So, I'm basically wiped out as far as my entire retirement account. I mean, there wasn't a whole lot of money in there. It was only it was about $1,000. No small figure, but that amount would have been matched dollar for dollar. And then since we got in, at the bottom of the market, I figure, modestly, it probably would have increased 6 to 8%. So my question is, first of all, is what they did illegal? I mean, I had just kind of an instinct going off in my head that what they did was illegal. Secondly, what do you suggest as far as my recourse? And thirdly, are they going to be responsible for just the balance? Are they going to be responsible for the match and the balance? Am I allowed to sue for the proceeds? I mean,
All right, let's slow down, and I'll break this down a little bit. First of all, yes, they have a fiduciary duty to put that money where they said they're going to, particularly when it's payroll money. Now, there are statutory acts which allow you to sue an employer for not compensating you like they promised. Now, here it's not strictly wage; it's a matching contribution as well as your contribution. They're supposed to be taking it out of your account, out of your check and putting it in, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes, they were. They were deducting it straight from my check, and actually they deducted the amount that I told them to deduct on Friday's payroll. Right when I found out about this. So yeah, they're continuing to deduct money from my paycheck.
Yeah. So they've actually stole from you, and under the criminal law, they failed to make required disposition of funds unlawfully. So there's technically criminal liability that a district attorney could go after them. Now, if somebody's found criminally liable, they may be responsible for restitution.
Okay.
Now, I did pick up from your post, though, that they're claiming that if they can get around the 8 ball here, they're going to somehow refund your money, right?
Yeah. Well, they found out that the accountant had told us about it, and they gathered us for a conference call. The first thing that they said to us in that conference call is if we approached the lawyer or brought litigation against us, that they would close the business down, and they didn't implicitly say that we would all be fired, but if they closed the business down, we would no longer have jobs. And yes, basically what they said to us was, they would make it up to us sometime in April after they had filed their income tax or some sort of arrangement. But, Carl, this is the type of company where when they say something like that, when they say we'll do it later, that's translation for we're never going to do it. So
right.
I'm fearful. I mean, what I'm most fearful about is them filing for bankruptcy and then, me having to wait in line behind everybody else.
And that's realistically a problem.
Mm-hmm.
That's realistically a problem that they could file bankruptcy. Now, if they're criminally responsible or fraud took place, that can exempt it from bankruptcy protection. But they still got to find money somewhere, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and they don't have the money. I mean, they made it clear to us that the money had been spent. I mean, they didn't have, even if they wanted to cut us checks on the spot, they wouldn't have been able to do that. And it's a small company. I mean, only about 12 employees, but there was about 6 other employees that were in the same boat as I was. I'm okay. I mean, I had the chance to regenerate the account, put more money in, but there's some of the older employees where, I mean, that was their retirement money. These people are, 10 years away from retirement,
right.
Maybe. They were counting on that money, so I really feel bad for those.
And you're right that part of your damage is potentially any lost profit. Of course, with IRAs, particularly if they're linked to various investment vehicles, it's possible that some of those vehicles may have gone down in value in the same vein. So it's hard to say exactly how that damage curve would be worked out. But you're right, there's potentially damages beyond simply not putting your money in there, which is the gains you should have made or could have made.
Is there damages beyond that? I mean, I don't mean to sound greedy, but, I mean, is there any sort of punitive damages that I may be eligible for?
With the wage laws and failure to make disposition of the wages properly, you can get your attorney's fees if you sue, and you can get some punitives, double and treble damages. The problem with that is, it's double damages. The problem with that is if they're bankrupt, they're bankrupt. You can't get blood out of stones.
Yeah.
And that's the big problem.
I'm convinced they have money. They're not doing poor. They receive, the company's doing okay, and I think they really misrepresent to us how bad they're doing. But I mean, there's money there.
Right.
Well, not taking. I just kind of want what's mine.
I guess the question is, do you take them? I mean, this silly threat of if you contact a lawyer, we're going to close down the company. Well, I guess maybe they could. And that's always a danger. But then the flip side is if you wait till April and you're not any farther ahead, I mean, is that the right way to go either?
Yeah, I mean, the way to me, I mean, the company's in dire straits. I mean, I'm not concerned.
Dale, I got to go to break here. Shane's gonna bust the window here if I don't go to break. He's pulling his hair right out of his head.
I'm sorry.
540-0580. I'll see you after the break.
Okay.
540-0580. Carl Rominger here, the show's weekend appointment, and I'm answering your legal questions. 540-0580. Call in right now if you've got one. Dale, I'm going to finish up with you here. You certainly have a couple causes of action. You might want to contact your local district attorney. And somebody called in during the break and said, tell Dale to find a new job.
I like my job. That's the bad thing about it.
Yeah, well, you might like your job, but if your employer did this to you once, I mean, it's kind of like your wife cheated on you. I mean, maybe you guys can patch it up, but maybe 2 years from now, when you find her in bed with somebody else, you're going to have to go,
Carl, I mean, it's not really myself that I'm worried about. I mean, there's other people there that are, a little bit older than myself. They're established, have families.
So, Dale, what I tell you to do before you take any action, talk with them and do it as a group, okay?
Well, I know they're not going to want to do anything. They're more concerned about having the job than they are about
the retirement. All right, brother. I guess it's a personal choice, but you certainly have legal recourse.
All right. I appreciate the help. I appreciate you taking the time to listen to my story. And
no problem. And any listener that wants to comment on his story, if you go, there's a thread right up there on Weekend Appointment about it involving the IRA. You can find it on there and help Dale out. All right, Dale, thanks.
Thanks, Carl.
It's weekendappointment.com. Just like it sounds, feel free to register and chime in. Bill, you're on WHP 580 with Carl Rominger. Bill.
Hello?
Yeah.
This is Carl?
Yep, this is.
Oh, okay.
You're on the air, man.
Yeah, thanks a lot. I have a friend out in Arizona who got stopped, and he didn't have insurance. And because he had a prior, I think, a speeding ticket like 3 months before that, now they're going to suspend his driver's license for a year. I was wondering what's it like in Pennsylvania if you get stopped, if a person would get stopped for similar circumstances.
Right.
Is there some kind of a thing like that in Pennsylvania? It's pretty uniform.
You can lose your driver's license in Pennsylvania for not having insurance. Failure to maintain financial responsibility, they call it. There's a 1 month or 6 month suspension that goes with that. You can also lose your license for too many points in general, which is repeat offenders, things like that. So, yeah, I mean, all states seem to have a fairly similar system. Some states are more forgiving than others. Montana, they have speeding tickets you can pay on the side of the road. So,
well, let's just narrow it down to just insurance. Is there like a first offense?
Failure to maintain insurance in Pennsylvania will result in a license suspension. First, second, or third offense. Doesn't really matter.
First, second, or third.
I mean, any. It has a license suspension attached to it.
I thought there was like $100 fine or something like that.
Well, there is. It's a regular old ticket, but then PennDOT suspends you because what you're doing by not carrying insurance, besides not taking care of yourself, is you're not taking care of me. When you plow into me with your uninsured car, I can't collect any money from you because you're probably judgment proof. So that's a hazard. You got to get people to carry insurance, and that's why it's so punitive when they don't.
Okay, so the law is pretty clear. You get stopped. You don't have insurance.
You're in trouble.
It's a fine and a suspension, an automatic suspension.
Right. You got to talk to my friend Justin Case at Safe Auto. I see his ads on TV, and they got this $15,000. And we'll accept anybody policies. Which, by the way, that minimum coverage of $15,000 doesn't cover anything either. But at least it gets you half. Gets you legal.
Right.
For less.
Okay,
all right,
great.
my friend.
Thanks a lot.
Gotta carry that auto insurance. Paul, you're on WHP 580 with Carl Rominger. My talk line number is 540-0580. What's your legal question?
Yeah, hi Carl. Thanks for taking my call.
No problem.
Okay.
Thanks for calling.
Okay. My wife's mother is in a nursing home, long-term care here in Pennsylvania, and my wife has power of attorney over her affairs.
Okay.
But it was from New York, where she got it.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if that makes any difference or not.
It should not.
Okay. Now, my wife turns out, has a serious illness.
Mm-hmm.
And her mother might live longer than she is going to.
Okay.
And I was wondering, will I need power of attorney if my wife predeceases her mother?
Well,
to handle my mother-in-law's affairs?
Yeah, well, first of all, I'm sorry to hear all that.
Thank you.
So the answer is if your wife predeceases her mother, then that power of attorney lapses. She can't give it to you or pass it to somebody else.
Right.
The only question then is her mother in condition to issue a new power of attorney? And the only requirement is that you be competent at the time you...
No, she has dementia.
Okay.
She's going to be in long-term care for
So what we would do then is you would come see a guy like me, and I do this all the time.
Right.
It's called a guardianship. And we go to the judge, and I get in contact with the doctors or the home where the alleged incompetent is.
Right.
I get them to fill out paperwork kind of certifying that. We file a
Right.
petition with the judge, and the judge will temporarily usually appoint you as what we call guardian ad litem, or guardian in the for the time being.
Okay.
And then we have a short hearing, and assuming that there's uncontested medical testimony, and usually the court also appoints another attorney to go out and evaluate the situation as if they represented the alleged incompetent.
Okay.
And that attorney usually will come in and say, Judge, I talked to my client as best I could, or
Right.
talked to my client and my client's doctors, and I agree it's in his best interest to be declared incompetent. So,
Right.
and it's a process that'll run you anywhere. I usually tell people you can expect to spend around $1,000, give or take, from start to finish, sometimes less, sometimes more.
Okay. So 2 people can't hold power of attorney at the same time.
Well, they can, yeah, absolutely. I could give a power of attorney to you and 3 other people. Of course, you
Right.
can all be out there transacting business on my behalf. And interestingly, I can be transacting business on my own behalf.
Right.
So it could be 4 of us out there doing stuff.
Okay.
There's too many. There's something about the soups and the pots and too many cooks in that.
Right. Right.
So-
now, if we didn't do anything and my wife predeceases my mother-in-law, what would happen to my mother-in-law's affairs then?
Well, then somebody's going to have to be in charge of them, and
Right.
obviously that's going to create a problem. And at some point, the home's going to say, "Hey, why don't we get a guardian here?"
Right. Well, she doesn't have any assets.
Right.
And we've already prepaid her funeral expenses and everything like that's taken care of.
Right. So you may find that you would only need to go hunt that. You would only need to deal with the guardianship issue if it actually it came to fruition. In other
Right.
words, if things run on autopilot,
Right.
then let it.
Right. Okay.
All right.
All right. All right. Thank you very much, Carl.
All right.
Okay. Bye-bye.
That sucks. Well, I don't know if there's a better way to say that or not, but that's just terrible. Paul, I feel for you. God bless you, man. 540-0580. Let's see here. Who's next? There's an order to these things. I say take you in the order you called. That way you don't wait longer than anybody else. Robert, you're on WHP 580 with Carl Rominger.
Carl, do I have you?
Rob, you're on.
Okay. Listen, thanks for the valuable service you perform, Carl.
I try.
And I'm slipping into your first name so easy. Listen, this may be an off-base question for you about Social Security.
Okay.
My wife died 5 years ago, but back in 1975, she had an accident working for a department store, and she ended up with a $35 a week income from them for up until the time she died. But in 1975, the accident occurred. We had moved to California.
Okay.
And about 1978, we filed for Social Security benefits. And, of course, I didn't know then they turned everybody down the first time.
Right.
And we never went back for the second trip. And as a result of loss of income and things, I eventually came back here and filed for bankruptcy.
Mm-hmm.
And what I was wondering is, after she's been dead 4 or 5 years, is it possible, as her mate, that I could file in her place for the Social Security benefits she didn't get?
Well, the long answer is I don't know the answer to that. But if she wasn't granted them, didn't appeal it, it's probably a final. It's kind of goes to rest at that point, unless she comes back and then refiles, which obviously is not going to happen at this late date.
Right. And she'd asked me one time, and I said no, and I don't know why the hell I said no.
Yeah, and this is. I don't think so. You could go ask Social Security if there's any way you might qualify for any benefit. I doubt you do, but like I say, I mean, it never hurts to ask. But I can't see how that would work in my head right now.
I told you it was an oddball question.
Yeah, and I think the lesson is, we'll use this as the president says, a teaching moment. Always, don't just assume that when the answer is no, that's because as you've learned, they just sort of deny everybody. It's like the old that's that movie, The Rainmaker, where the insurance company, the manual says deny, 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 deny.
She said to me about 6 months or a year before she died, she mentioned that.
Yeah. So
I nixed it, which was stupid.
Well, but that's why I say so. I'm calling it our teaching moment, which is never take no for an answer, and more importantly, when it invokes a right or something, think about finding a guy like me, an attorney somewhere, and even if it costs $45 or $150 or whatever you end up getting charged to get some sound legal advice, it's worthwhile because there are many times people wander into my office and go, I know there's nothing I can do about this, but I just thought I'd ask. And I'm like, well, actually, there is something you can do about this. And sometimes, I mean, I can think of like a gal one time who broke in her arm in an auto accident, and she said to me, well, I don't think there's anything I can do about this. I mean, and I was like, what do you mean nothing you can do about it? And, $25,000 later, she was a happy camper. So my point is a lot of times you don't realize what you have available to you.
If you're not sure.
Yeah. All right, my friend.
Okay, Mr. Rominger, it was very nice talking to you.
Pleasure.
Thanks.
Thank you for calling. Thank you for listening.
Okay.
Let's see here. Who's next? John. John.
How about John?
Oh, yeah, okay. Is that the way I'm supposed to say it?
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, Carl, I have a question for you about divorce.
Okay.
Going through a divorce, and they're trying to levy a rental fee on me for living in the house. She moved out and took everything.
Okay.
And had to have the house appraised and all the property appraised. And they came up with this screwy idea about, or her attorney did, about charging me rent to live in my own home, which I feel is asinine.
Well, first of all, don't swear on the radio, number one. Number two, you want to hold for the break, and I'm going to answer this, because I know the answer to this.
Okay.
All right, hold for the break. Joan's going to hold on. 540-0580. I'll see you after the break. Five 540-0580. Carl Rominger here, the show's weekend appointment. John. Yeah. How am I supposed to say your name?
John, John.
John.
Yes.
I say Joan. I you know what? I'm from up north, and I'm that Buffalo thing going on.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, here's the story. It's a story of a marriage, okay? And this is how I explain this to my clients. In every marriage, there are three people. And I know some people go, oh, he's a liberal wacky from California. No, there's three people in the marriage legally. There's the husband, the wife, and then there's the fictional entity called the marriage. And so all three of you have different ownership rights, if you want to look at it that way. So the marital home is owned by the marriage, not by either one of you individually. So if one of you is using it, that person theoretically is getting the benefit of the marriage's home. And so think about it this way. If both of you move out of the marital home and before you sell it, you decide to rent it, you could go ahead and get rental income from the home. And neither one of you would live in the marital home. So you would each pay your own rent, and then the marital home would generate income. So it's an asset that potentially can generate income. And so there's a doctrine that says that when one spouse stays in the marital home, they can be charged a fair rental value. Now, if they're paying a mortgage or part of the mortgage or other expenses, there's other offsets for that as well. But nonetheless, you're getting the full benefit of the use of the house, which the marriage could have rented out to anybody else in the world. That's the theory. And so it's discretionary with the court. And one of the other considerations is whether or not the other spouse created the situation. So, for instance, if your wife had left to be with another man, for instance, she probably would be told that because she was at fault for leaving the house and leaving you in it, that she can't charge you a fair rental value. And that's a defense to that kind of argument, that there's fault in that party for creating the situation. But nonetheless, a court can tag the person who stays in the home with a fair rental value, but then again, you get offsets for all the expenses and things that you've done.
Okay. Well, I was told, I don't know by how many different loan officers and different banks, that they never heard of such a thing. I better fire my attorney and get a new attorney. Well, apparently they're all wrong.
Well, that's why you can't listen to those people. And the answer is, I know this because I have the case. I do a lot of divorce work, and I was just sitting in the office the other day reading the case law on that exact issue. So it's funny that you called on it because I've got it very fresh in my mind, and I can tell you that's exactly the doctrine that the courts apply. And I have a lot of clients who have been tagged with fair rental value, and I have conversely a lot of clients who we've successfully argued shouldn't have to pay fair rental value. And of course, sometimes we go after the other spouse for fair rental value.
Mm-hmm.
So I know it's a play. I know it's a legitimate issue. And are you guys trying to resolve the marriage by agreement, or are you going to a hearing?
Going to a hearing.
Yeah. So be ready for the hearing. If you paid out, who's been paying the mortgage? You paying the mortgage?
There is no mortgage. That's another thing. It's free, and
that's free and clear. Well, yeah, then baby, you're getting 100% of the benefit of that without any cost.
Okay. Yeah, that's what I was told. I just can't understand that, but I guess that's the way it works.
But if you can figure out a reason why she left, and it might be at fault, that might be your defense, and then you get the double. You get the double dip. All right.
Okay. Thanks a lot.
All right. Yeah. Shane, did you mumbling something over there?
Yeah, you and I talked during the break, and I got something from a unanimous person, and they asked, if you have a felony, can you get a hunting license and carry a gun?
Well, you can get a hunting license if you have a felony. You cannot carry a gun with a felony unless that your civil rights have been restored. And here in Pennsylvania, we have no such statutes. If you're charged and convicted of a felony in Pennsylvania, that's not going to happen. If it's from out of state, you might have had your civil rights restored. However, there is an argument afoot. That under the new Heller decision, which is the Second Amendment decision by the U.S. Supreme Court, that complete ban might not be constitutional, although we're probably about 5 to 7 years away from the courts answering that exact question. You can get a felony. You can get a felony in some states, and I'm trying to remember some of the silly – there's a list of silly felonies out there which you can get, including like possessing a fish that's too short or something in some state can be a felony in some circumstances. And so, do we really conclusively say that you can never own a gun again because you had a, quote, felony when the founders meant by felony kind of like a murder or other infamous crime? But I would tell your friend, whoever that might be, that they should not be carrying a firearm until they've been granted either the restoration of their civil rights or the law changes, because they would be a felon not to possess, and it's a very harsh penalty.
Thank you, Carl. Let them know.
Not a problem. Joseph, you're on WHP 580 with Carl Rominger. My talk line number is 540-0580. Joseph.
Yeah.
What's
Good
going on?
afternoon. Very interesting show. Just a couple of comments and a question. One of them is the fact that why doesn't the insurance companies notify the state whenever the person drops their car insurance? The other thing is, one of your callers asked about if there sensors or rather cameras on top of the poles. They are sensors, but those sensors are capable of noting when people go through a light.
Right.
So therefore, then in the future, they could decide whether or not they want to put a camera to stop people from going through lights.
Gotcha.
My question to you is this. I bumped into my aunt in the store, and she was looking to, get money for her jewelry that she doesn't wear anymore. And the creep was ignoring the fact that there were diamonds in that jewelry that are larger than chips.
Right.
So I was wondering, what is it that I can do to pursue the fact that these crumbs are taking advantage of these elderly folk?
Well, they could be sued. They could be sued for violating consumer protection laws, and obviously, it's going to depend upon a proof of what's going on. But I understand what you're saying. Is they're saying, okay, we'll give you some money for the gold, and in the meantime, they're not paying full value because there's other components that are worth money.
They weren't even mentioning about that. As a matter of fact, they were overly using the word scrap as if like, because you no longer want to wear it, then in effect it's junk. So therefore, you should be able to sell it for anything. And I looked at the fair market value for 14-karat gold, and it was 4 times what this guy was trying to offer. And I had to drag her away. And when I explained to her what the creep was trying to do, and then she understood more clearly, and her eyes opened widely. And I know that, from the past week, it's been through discussion with a lot of her friends. And I just feel not only for her, but for others, that these people are taking things that, in the past were of some sentimental value and now trying to give them pennies for what it is.
Right. Well, and of course, you do run into a practical problem, which is what is the wholesale value of that kind of metal if it's going to be melted down? And of course, obviously, you and I on the street are not going to get the same price that the markets exchange it after it's been purified and all that sort of stuff. But nonetheless, I saw a special on TV not too long ago where they went to some of these online, Cash for Gold and some of these other online places, as well as some other Gold Party and some other places to see, a jewelry store. They actually got the best value for their scrap gold or old rings down in New York City in the Diamond District. which everybody thought would be the opposite, but that's because they were paying a fair value. A lot of the online services pay pennies on the dollar because they say their expenses are so high in shipping it and insuring it and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I don't suppose you remember the value per gram?
No, I do not. I just remember that it varied widely. In other words, they took the exact same ring, they got duplicates and sent them out these different ways and did it and then saw what they got. But nonetheless, nobody got anything close to the actual, quote, value of gold.
Oh.
If you watch what the value of gold is according to Glenn Beck every morning.
Nice.
All right, my friend. I want to go back to one thing. What was the first thing you commented on was not the traffic lights, but the...
Yeah. Oh, no, that was the second thing. There are sensors on those poles that when they see traffic approaching, then it changes the light red or green. But those sensors are also capable of noting that the light is red, but there are still cars going through.
Right. And then you can eventually tie a camera in with it very easily.
Yeah, they'll be able to determine that that's a troublesome intersection, and they're not going to wait until accidents occur, because especially since, our mayor wants to, raise some of the salaries of some folks, I think it's a better way to get that.
Oh, my gosh. Yeah, I wonder what she's paying the bodyguards, Joseph. All right, Joseph, got to take some more callers. Thank you.
Good day.
Let's see here. Tom, you're on WHP 580 with Carl Rominger. My talk line number is 540-0580. What's going on, Tom?
Are you familiar with the Megan's Law? Do you know a lot about it?
I know a lot about it. Because I do some criminal defense work, I've had to interface with the Megan's Law on many occasions.
Okay, I have a question for you. I know someone that was convicted of a crime back before Megan's Law came into existence. So when he got out of prison, they automatically put him in Megan's Law. But then about 2 or 3 years ago, a man by the name of Harvey actually raped a little 8-year-old boy, and because he was convicted before Megan's Law was in existence, he wasn't under the supervision of the state police.
Right.
Can one person be under the supervision and not the other?
Well, I don't understand why they would do that, how they could do that to your friend, because if his crime was before Megan's Law, then they can't apply it ex post facto. So he should have challenged that. Well,
he's mentally isn't too bright, and no one on his side. His lawyer had him plead guilty without even a trial when he really didn't rape anybody or anything. Gotcha. But well, get him in to see a lawyer. I got to go to break here, my friend, but get him in to see. I have a break now, or I do have to go to break. Yes, I'm sorry. I do have to go to break. Get him in to see a lawyer. 540-0580. 540-0580. Carl Rominger here. The show's Weekend Appointment. Show where I answer your legal questions here on the air. And, of course, we're in our last segment here, so you better call in if you've got a question now. But, of course, if you don't get through today or you don't think of it till tomorrow, it's Sunday evening and you're going, oh, my gosh, I got a question I should ask Carl on Saturday, just post it on weekendappointment.com. That's right, weekendappointment.com. And we've spiffed that site up. So, again, if you're a listener who hasn't been there in a while, I want you to go take a look at it. It's really easier to use, makes more sense now. It's easier to find the free will. When you go to the front page, you're going to find the free will button right across the top. Gives you a little bit of instructions on how to do it. We've got some custody tips posted. There's a tab called Hire Carl. That's where you can get my phone number, get my email, get a hold of me, come see me. A lot of you do that, and I appreciate seeing you in my office, and it's an honor to represent you. So go to weekendappointment.com, and I got to let you know, and if you're a restaurant owner and you want to give away some gift certificates and get a little free publicity at the same time, I have got a few restaurants that are in the process of giving me some more gift certificates to give away. We gave away a bunch of Applebee's ones before, but now we're giving away some smaller local restaurants as well around the mid-state. So if you're a restaurant owner, get in contact with us. If you want your free publicity, all you got to do is send us some gift certificates to give away, and we'll do that. But I have a few $100s worth I'm going to be picking up this week that a couple of restaurants have promised us. So if you're a registered user, and if you're not one, make sure you are. If you're a registered user, we're going to put up a random drawing, and you'll be eligible to win those gift certificates. And, $25 a pop, not a bad deal, just for registering online at weekendappointment.com. So if you're not a registered user, make sure you are, and join in on the conversation. We're getting some really interesting conversations on there, and I love to hear what people have to say. John, you're on WHP 580 with attorney Carl Rominger.
Hi, Carl. How you been?
Good, man. How are you?
Good. Your show is going right in the direction of a question I have had on the back of my mind. My mom died maybe 4 years ago.
Okay.
She had COPD and was in and out of rehabs. Mostly the rehab came after a hospital stay, but she was married. Someone took good care of her, etc. Now, my wife had died a year earlier.
Okay.
And we had some hospital, people come over and interview her and stuff so they could visit her once in a while. But they kept on asking, for coverage, what she owned. And as it turned out, she didn't really own anything. So, as far as I know, we were pretty much off the hook.
Right.
Now, what happens, because I got nobody really to, see after me. What happens if I own a house and a car and I have, CDs and that sort of thing with a bank account? What would happen if I got sick? Would they take all of that away from my heirs?
Potentially, yes. There's a 5-year look-back period these days, so even if you started to transfer some of that stuff, potentially that could be set aside going backwards in time. Now, what we would do if you came to see a guy like me is we put together what's called an estate plan, and that would be an idea of, are there some ways that you can insulate your assets against those things? Are there some ways that you can make sure that your heirs get some of what you want them to have in a way that doesn't violate the law or is a fraud? And there are a lot of vehicles and opportunities to do that. Sometimes I have, if you ever listen to me when I'm on WHP Durgan show, we've had a guy on named Mark Virginus, and his link's on my website under Friends of the Show on Weekend Appointment. He's a guy that I know can help people out sometimes with different kinds of financial products that allow you to sidestep those things to make sure that your heirs do get something, even if you end up in a home or otherwise having your finances drained by long-term care costs.
Well, yeah, that's my point. I've been paying insurance. I have long-term care. I have all this junk, but I still think they're going to try and take something.
Yeah, and that's the trick. The trick is to take a look at what you have and put together a rational plan. And it's amazing sometimes that even a person with what we wouldn't consider a phenomenally large amount of assets can still structure a way to make sure that they can pass something on to their heirs and their successors. So, but it's different in everybody's case, John, because we all have to balance these different short-term needs and all these different long-term needs. So it depends on your age. It depends on how liquid your assets are or illiquid they are. It depends on how many heirs you have. It depends on your health. It depends on the likelihood of you surviving a certain point, what kinds of insurance products you already have, because some things aren't always available to us if we wait too long to purchase them or the prices aren't reasonable enough. Mm-hmm. So there's a lot of things to consider, but if some of it's in a pension, there all these different aspects, but what you do is you sit down with a lawyer and a financial advisor, and between the two, we're usually able to work up a plan. And then, of course, Congress changes the tax codes, and the state changes this thing around. So you got to evaluate every few years to make sure that it's still rational. But that's how it's done. Okay,
I figured I got the best answer around.
Thank you very much.
All right, see ya.
All right, my friend.
Bye.
That's and that's the answer is there's no right answer. There's better answers, there's best answers, and then there's really wrong answers. But there's no exactly right answer because everybody's situation is different. But I strongly encourage you to evaluate. It's funny because I've had people say, well, I'm going to wait until I'm worth X dollars before I go make a big long-term plan. And, if you're always waiting for that magic moment, it's better to kind of structure it ahead of time. The other thing is, let's say you're a decent income earner. I'm making $75,000 a year, and I think I can – my kids are old enough now. My wife's got a job, and I think I can push $15,000 a year into savings and into this IRA. Well, are you sure you're doing the right? Is there a better way to do it? Should you be pushing it into a different type of product? Should you be planning it a different way? And that's the time to start planning early because you can create those vehicles in a rational way early rather than wake up one day and say, well, I've got $400,000 in a 401k. I'm 62, and I'm trying to figure out what's the best thing to do with it. maybe back when you were 50 would have been the time to start planning how to eventually unload that, or how to space it out, or how to make it into more steady income. Sammy, you're on WHP 580 with attorney Carl Rominger.
Yes, Mr. Rominger, I have a couple of quick questions for you.
All right.
Let me get to the first one. I don't understand why they're not dropping supplies to the Haitians by air.
I don't know the answer to that, except that they are doing some stuff, but I don't know exactly what they are or aren't doing.
No, they're not dropping anything by air. The Secretary of Defense said that wasn't practical, but it seemed to me it would be very practical. But anyway, let me go to the next question.
Okay.
Mr. Rominger, I would like to know how different cases are handled in the county courthouse. Is there a newsletter, or how do you find that out? Is that easy to find?
Well, for instance, Lancaster County has their calendar online, so you can see what's going on. So if you go to the Lancaster County website, you can see everybody's daily court calendar. Cumberland County has some of their things on their websites. If it's not on the county's website, you can contact the court administrator to find out what's going on in different courtrooms and what cases are on various lists.
There's a lot of red tape. They don't want us to... at one time they used to publish how all the cases were disposed of in the courts, but now they've discontinued that. But you say for Lancaster County we can find it online.
Yeah, you can find at least a schedule of what's happening. Now, the exact results, I'm not sure how you're going to find all those. That's the music, Sammy. Had to let you go. Folks, weekendappointment.com. Make sure you're a registered user so you can get those valuable gift certificates. In the meantime, you can get hold of me. We have a team of lawyers in the office happy to help you with all your legal needs. Go to weekendappointment.com to find me in the office. And I'll see you guys next Saturday. I'm going to do a little hunting next Saturday morning. So, but I'll be in. Want to make sure I'm here live for you.